I just want to mention that unelected President Joe Biden this week, he claimed incorrectly that the church does not oppose some abortions.
I know. Can you imagine this?
He made this silly remark while commenting on a Republican proposal to restrict abortions after 15 weeks of gestation.
Oh, my God.
Here's what unelected Joe Biden said. I happen to be a practicing Roman Catholic.
Wrong.
My church doesn't even make that argument.
Oh, my God.
This may be the most, Catholic Vote, Brian Burr said, this may be the most outrageous thing Joe Biden has ever said. Does Joe Biden think he knows more about abortion than 2,000 years of popes and bishops and 2,000 years of the perennial teachings of the Catholic Church?
Yeah,
this guy is so out of touch with his faith.
Yeah.
He's jumping over the trapdoor of hell. Also, Americans feel unsafe under Biden. A majority of Americans do not feel safe in this country.
For good reason.
According to a new poll for the Trafalgar Group, 69% of Americans report that they feel less safe today than they did 2 years ago. Also,
good reason.
The average American income is down about $4,000, the household. The average American has lost $4,200 in annual income since President Biden took office due to soaring inflation and interest rates wiping out income gains under the previous administration, according to the data compiled by the Heritage Foundation. And also, if you wonder why, who's going after Ron DeSantis, the governor, who's behind this? This great governor, all of a sudden he's being weighed down by lawsuits. George Soros.
Surprise.
Is behind the anti-DeSantis lawsuits. Soros from the Open Society Network since 2016 has paid nearly $1.4 million to Alianza Americas, the activist group at the center of a class action lawsuit against Governor DeSantis of Florida and other Florida officials for migrant flights to Martha's Vineyard. Anytime you ever want to see who's funding something very evil, you don't have to look too far, Terry. George Soros.
Yeah, follow the money.
The ugly weaponization of law enforcement.
Yep.
The FBI is just basically the military branch of the Biden administration. That's all they are.
Yeah.
Yep. The FBI raids the home of a Catholic pro-life speaker, author, with guns drawn and his terrified kids as they watch. Mark Houck and his wife, Ryan Marie Houck, there's a beautiful picture of them there with their 7 children. I can't even imagine what they went through.
Oh.
The kids were all screaming, according to Ryan Marie Houck, the mom.
Sure.
She says it was all just very scary and traumatic. Yeah, Mark Houck's a well-known pro-life author, sidewalk counselor, and father of 7. He's the latest victim of the U.S. Department of Justice sponsored SWAT raid and arrest for supposed FACE Act violations at his rural home as his children looked on screaming. Mark Houck is the founder and president of the Kingsmen, which promotes healing for victims of pornography addiction and promotes Christian virtues among men in the U.S. and Europe. According to his wife, Ryan Marie, who spoke with LifeSite News, he also drives 2 hours south to Philadelphia every Wednesday to sidewalk counsel for 6 to 8 hours at 2 different abortion centers.
Wow.
Ryan Marie, who is a homeschooling mother, described how the SWAT team of 25 to 30 FBI agents swarmed their property with around 15 vehicles at 7:05 this morning, having quickly surrounded the house with rifles in firing position. They started pounding on the door and yelling for us to open it. Before opening the door, she explained her husband tried to calm them, saying, "Please, I'm going to open the door, but please, my children are in the home. I have 7 babies in the house." But they just kept pounding and screaming. When Mark opened the door, they had these big, huge rifles pointed at Mark and pointed at his wife, Ryan Marie, and kind of pointed throughout the house. When the FBI came in, they ordered the kids to stay upstairs. Our upstairs, says Ryan Marie, she says it's open, so the kids were all at the top of the stairs, which faces the front door, and I was on the stairs as well, coming down. The kids were all just screaming. It was all just very scary and traumatic, she explained.
I bet.
After asking them why they were at the house, the agent said they were there to arrest Mark. When Ryan Marie, the wife, asked for their warrant, they said that they were going to take him whether they had a warrant or not.
What a stupid statement. Can you imagine?
This is these guys should be fired and
really?
then arrested.
What kind of professional?
Yeah, because this is called false imprisonment, Terry.
Yeah.
A cop that arrests somebody and he has no authority to do so, this is called false imprisonment. But of course, they're going to have immunity because they were in uniform. I already know how that works.
Really? I didn't know that, Jesse.
Yeah. When Ryan Marie protested saying this is kidnapping, she said to the FBI, "You just can't come to a person's house and kidnap them at gunpoint." Then they agreed to get the warrant for her from one of their vehicles. So they said, okay, this woman has half a brain, so they know they have to show you the warrant. At this point, Mark asked her to get him a sweatshirt and his rosaries, but when they returned, they already had loaded him into the vehicle. They provided the first page of the warrant and said they were taking him to the federal building in downtown Philadelphia. After they had taken Mark and the kids were all screaming, saying that their dad was their best friend, the FBI agents on the porch kind of softened a bit. I think they realized what just happened, or maybe they actually looked at the warrant. Ryan Marie explained they looked pretty ashamed at what just has happened.
As they should.
As a result, the homeschooling mother and her kids were really sad and stressed. Mm-hmm. She said, "I've already reached out to some psychiatrists and psychologists to try to help us through this. I really don't know what's going to come of it when you see guns pointed at your dad and your mom in your house when you first wake up in the morning," she lamented. So the warrant, it charged Mark with violating the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act due to a claimed attack of a patient escort. Ryan Marie stated this charge comes from an incident that had already been thrown out of the district court in Philadelphia, but was somehow picked up once again and brought back to life by Merrick Garland's Department of Justice.
Yeah. Evil.
On several occasions, when Mark went to the sidewalk council last year, he took his eldest son, who was only 12 at the time. And she explained that for weeks and weeks, a pro-abortion protester would speak to the boy saying crude, inappropriate, and disgusting things, such as "your dad's a fag," and other statements that were too vulgar for her to convey. Repeatedly, Mark would tell this pro-abortion man that he did not have permission to speak to his son, and please refrain from doing so. And he kept doing it and kind of came into his son's personal space, obscenely ridiculing his father. At this point, Mark shoved him away from his child, and the guy fell back. He didn't have any injuries or anything, but he tried to sue Mark, and the case was thrown out of court in the early summer. Since the Biden administration has taken power in January 2021, Garland's Department of Justice and the FBI have committed dozens of SWAT team raids that have characterized a political weaponization of the federal agencies against who? Pro-lifers, Trump supporters, conservative Christians, and medical freedom advocates. Terry, you and me fall under all four camps.
Absolutely.
You and me shouldn't be surprised if we get our doors kicked in. I'm serious, and I'm not joking when I say that. For example, in contrast to left-wing rioters who caused enormous damage in cities across the nation in 2020, and the vandals who attacked dozens of pro-life centers this year with little or no legal ramifications, the DOJ implemented the harshest of consequences for those who identified as having anything to do with the disturbance at the Capitol on January 6, 2021. These actions have included early morning SWAT team arrest, ransacked homes, confiscation of property, indefinite pretrial solitary confinement without bail in a dedicated D.C. prison, significant physical abuse, and the violation of the constitutional rights to a speedy trial.
Jesse, let me just jump in and say, and you said it earlier in the show, how many people feel uncomfortable, unsafe in America. This is precisely why they should feel unsafe, because right now, this government of ours is acting almost like a communist government that says a dictator would be more accurate, correct. So here's the thing. In March, the FBI rounded up 10 pro-life activists, including a good friend of ours, Joan Andrew Bell, with the SWAT team raids and served immediate and humiliate accused through an exercise of excessive force. Now, a surfaced video of one of these raids shows armed agents holding pro-lifers at gunpoint and ordering them to put their hands up, drop to their knees, and scoot backward and their front door in the middle of the night. The pro-lifers are respectful and compliant throughout the whole thing. Jess, before you continue on the article, Jess, you're a cop for 20 years. Doesn't something
I would have
go,
never participated
that's my
in
point.
something like this.
Yeah, what do you say? Like, I'm
Ruben
sorry.
would have never,
No
Eddie
way.
Chavez,
I don't believe it.
Eddie Brock.
No, I'm not going to do it.
But I'll tell you what they're doing, Terry.
What are they doing?
This is why they wanted to force the jab
The good guys out, right?
on cops and servicemen. I'll tell you why.
I can see this.
Because they know that the people of faith were going to claim a religious exemption, and people that are conservatives and well read.
They're not going to comply to this.
They're not. So this way, they can get rid of all the conservative, faithful cops and military.
Jesse.
And the only people that are going to remain are the woke cops.
Yep, and they'll do whatever.
The woke, and guess what? They'll do this.
Yeah.
They will be attack dogs for the left. Wow. They have no conscience. They're moral relativists. They're not people of faith. I worked around them. They're not people of faith. They will do whatever the government says, whatever the chief or the sheriff says. They will do it without question, Terry.
Yeah.
Their moral conscience is gone.
Yeah.
And this is the only people that the Biden administration wants in law enforcement and wants in the military.
Yeah, you nailed it, Jess. And this is what we're up against. Some people would say you're conspiracy theories. Folks, think about what's happened in the last 2 years and
They all come true.
And ask yourself, could this be happening on my watch? Yes. And let's continue about the FBI, Jesse. Continue.
Yeah, a surface video of one of these raids shows armed agents holding pro-lifers at gunpoint.
Yep.
And ordering them to put their hands up, drop to their knees, and scoot backward out of their front door in the middle of the night.
Unbelievable.
The pro-lifers are respectful and compliant throughout. After the FBI's unprecedented August raid on President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis called it another escalation in the weaponization of federal agencies against the regime's political opponents. And that's what Biden does have. He has a regime. It's not an administration. An administration is under a republic. A regime is under a dictator. He has a regime. And soon after Joe Biden's September 1st speech, where he declared war on conservative Christians, by the way, with a satanic backdrop,
wow,
dozens of Trump allies had their homes raided by the FBI, which Steve Bannon referred to as a Gestapo tactic and said it was all about intimidation. In response to the raid on the Houck residence this morning, however, local pro-life advocates don't seem to be intimidated, but energized.
They should.
In addition to sponsoring a fundraiser for this family, they will be holding a prayer rally at the Philadelphia Women's Center, abortion facility at 777 Apple Tree Street from 10:30 a.m. to noon on Saturday, September 24th. All are invited to come and pray peacefully and make a financial donation as well.
Just
you can go to, givesendgo.com, givesendgo.com.
Awesome.
If you go on this article, you can click on the link so you can donate to the Houck family.
Amen.
Thanks be to God. He's going to need this for legal expenses. He needs $200,000 for legal expenses. His goal is $200,000. He's already raised $187,000.
Wow.
I'm going to donate right after the show.
This is awesome. Yeah. Jesse, make a prediction, because I believe the government is going to take this one on the chin, because what took place was totally not according to law.
Oh, this is government-sponsored bullying and intimidation.
Yeah.
This is going to go to the courts in about 6 months, when all this blows over. And Mark Houck and his wife are going to have an incredible lawsuit on their hands against the FBI. And what's going to happen, they're going to sweep it under the carpet. It's not going to go to court because they'll get killed in a court of law by a jury for what they did. So they're going to settle out of court. And Mark Houck and his wife are going to get a big fat paycheck, and good for them. I hope they break the piggy bank of the FBI's budget, because this was evil what they did. And of course, it doesn't surprise me that one of the only bishops, or the only bishop so far that has denounced this, is our own Bishop Joseph Strickland.
Of course.
He's on Twitter. He put this out, quote, "The description of this arrest sounds like it took place in a totalitarian state.
Yep.
This is a tragic unraveling of justice in America." Yeah, thank you, Bishop Strickland, once again, being the only bishop to speak out against this. Terry, all I could say is this, I personally don't trust any of these alphabet soup agencies, CIA, FBI, CDC. I don't trust them under the Biden administration. Under Democrat rule, I don't trust them.
I don't blame you.